Number 12. Harry Whittington. On February the 11th of 2006, United States Vice President Dick Cheney accidentally shot Texas attorney Harry Whittington during a quail hunt. At the time, Whittington was searching for a downed bird, while Cheney shot on another that flew up. Whittington reportedly hadn't announced his position and came into the line of fire. Birdshot struck the 78-year-old in the face, neck, and upper torso. Secret Service agents, who were part of Cheney's security detail, intervened and assisted Whittington. He was taken to the hospital, where doctors decided not to remove about 30 pellets that had become lodged in his body for fear of causing further damage. One pellet, lodged near the elderly man's heart, caused him to suffer a minor heart attack while in the hospital. Another fragment permanently affected his voice. There was some controversy regarding the incident, which was ironically referred to as Quailgate by the media. Some of the questionable aspects included that the distance of the shooting may have been closer than the stated 90 feet, and whether the hunting party had been drinking heavily prior to the incident. Number 11. Valery Sosedov. Russian man Valery Sosedov was shot in the face during a hunting trip that took place in late September of 2020. Sosedov was making a duck call from behind the bush to attract the birds when his companion accidentally shot him. Sosedov's friend reportedly had bad eyesight and had been hunting without his glasses. He had confused the victim's camouflage bandana with a duck. Sosedov's eyes and face were ravaged by birdshot. The 25-year-old's cousin started raising money to pay for his operation, but according to preliminary reports from his doctors, the man risked losing vision in one eye. Number 10. Thomas Alexander. For over 2 decades, Arkansas man Thomas Alexander had been working for the Fish and Game Commission. He was an experienced hunter, which is why the incident that occurred in October of 2019 came as a surprise to all who knew him. The 66-year-old had been hunting for deer near Yaleville when he shot a buck with a muzzle-loader rifle. As Alexander approached the fallen beast, it got up and attacked him. The buck gored the hunter with its horns, inflicting severe injuries. Alexander managed to contact family members, who then called for an ambulance. He was taken to a local hospital, where he was later pronounced dead. Number 9. Maurice Desjardins. In 2011, while preparing to go hunting in rural Quebec, Maurice Desjardins suffered a horrific injury, which left him severely disfigured. After removing all of the bullets, Desjardins started cleaning his hunting rifle. Unbeknownst to him, a bullet was still in the chamber. At some point, the rifle slid out of his hands and the butt hit the floor. The weapon discharged, and the bullet carved a path through the man's neck, devastating his face. Amazingly, he survived, but in spite of doctors' efforts, he lost his jaws, teeth, lips, and nose. Only holes were left where his mouth and nose had been. For 7 years, Desjardins had to breathe through a surgically made opening in his neck, and he struggled to eat, sleep, or speak. Because of his disfigurement, the man shied away from social interactions. Then in 2018, at the age of 64, Desjardins became the oldest person in the world to receive a full face transplant. In a 30-hour operation, a team of surgeons assisted by dozens of other medical staff took a donor's face and replaced all the facial features that Desjardins had lost. The operation gave Desjardins, who for years had lived in constant pain, a chance to enjoy his life again. When asked about the successful operation, the man said that God was there. In the months that followed, he steadily became adjusted to his new face, while relearning to use its motor functions and taking medicine to prevent his body from rejecting the transplant. Number 8. Chris McSherry. While bow hunting with a friend at Port Bradshaw in Australia's Northern Territory, Chris McSherry had a near-fatal encounter with a buffalo. The 35-year-old had shot several arrows into the animal and was waiting for it to fall over. McSherry had only managed to turn and take a few steps before the injured buffalo charged him and plunged its horns into his legs. The animal weighed almost 1,800 pounds, meaning it was about half as heavy as a car. After the initial charge, the buffalo pushed McSherry into the ground again and then lifted him with its horns almost 10 feet into the air. The hunter eventually escaped by rolling away from the buffalo. He was rushed to Gove Hospital with a set of brutal injuries on his lower body. They included an 8-inch gash under his backside and a gaping hole above his knee, which was about the size of a soda can, from where the buffalo's horn had pierced him. While in the hospital, He admitted that had the beast aimed higher, he wouldn't have survived. Number 7. Shooting in Michigan. In November of 2019, a 29-year-old man accidentally shot his own brother, who was 1 year his junior, during a hunting trip gone wrong. The incident took place in a dense Michigan cornfield after the siblings had become separated while hunting for deer. The shooter aimed his muzzle-loader rifle after hearing noises and seeing movement. He believed that he'd spotted a deer and pulled the trigger. The man soon realized he'd shot his brother and immediately called 911. The victim was airlifted to a hospital in critical condition, but doctors eventually managed to stabilize him. Both men fully cooperated with investigators, and the shooting was deemed accidental. Number 6. Karen Rensel. In 2017, on the first day of deer season in Maine, a woman was shot and killed by a hunter while she was on her property. At the time, Karen Rensel was digging for rocks and gemstones. She wasn't wearing bright clothing for safety, and her land didn't have fencing or signs against trespassing. Hunters in Maine are typically allowed to pursue an animal on private property in the absence of these demarcations. The area was heavily wooded, and a 38-year-old man who was on a hunting trip with his father and others shot Rensel from about 200 feet. The name of the hunter responsible wasn't released. Another member of his party called the emergency services. Unfortunately, Rensel succumbed to her injuries and became the state's first hunting-related fatality in 4 years. The shooter would later plead guilty to manslaughter as part of an agreement that he'd spend 9 months in jail. Number 5. Alex Bailey. While out hunting pigeons, 18-year-old Alex Bailey was fatally shot after jumping in front of his friend's firearm in 2007. Bailey and 2 companions were hunting at a barley field in East Sussex, England. Their protocol was to announce the shot by saying, "My bird." However, as one of them spotted a pigeon and called it as his own, Bailey denied the claim and jumped into the line of fire. It was later reported that the teenager had been drinking. As Bailey's best friend fired his rifle, a pellet struck the teenager in the head. Bailey collapsed, and his companions initially thought he was joking. They soon realized that he was hurt and called for help. Yet by the time the emergency services arrived, Bailey was already dead. A coroner subsequently returned a verdict of death by misadventure. Number 4. Mark David. In August of 2020, while bow hunting on a private property in Oregon, Mark David managed to hit an elk bull. The man couldn't locate the animal before nightfall and decided to return to camp. The following morning, David and the property owner started tracking the wounded beast. Shortly after 9 a.m., they located the elk bull and found that the animal was still alive. David pulled back his bow and prepared to make the kill shot. It was at that moment that the enraged elk charged him and gored the man in his neck with its horns. The property owner tried to help David, but the extent of his injuries was too great. Both he and the elk he'd targeted died at the scene. Number 3. Black bear attack. In November of 2019, a hunter in North Carolina was severely injured by a black bear he'd just shot. The man was part of a group that was hunting bears with dogs in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. The canines had chased a black bear up a tree, and the hunter shot the animal roughly 4 times. After the 375-pound beast tumbled to the ground, it attacked the man by biting and clawing at his body. As he attempted to flee, the bear chased him, and they both fell off a slight cliff. After plunging off the sharp drop, the bear wandered away instead of resuming its attack. It was later found dead in the creek. Since the group had been hunting in a remote location, it took several hours for help to arrive. The hunter had sustained claw swipes on one of his legs and a bite to the stomach. He also suffered a back injury and a fractured pelvis in the fall. The man was taken for treatment to an Asheville hospital. Today's topic was requested by Blood Trails Old Wounds New Scars and Exo Oxy C Main. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Peter Kulofsky. In November of 2019, Peter Kulofsky was fatally shot by a hunter named William Briggs. Both men were from Maine and hunting deer at the time, although not in the same party. Briggs saw deer antlers moving in the brush, aimed and fired his rifle. Even though he was wearing blaze orange, Briggs failed to notice Kulofsky. The man collapsed instantly after being struck by the bullet. A pair of antlers was discovered next to Kulofsky's body, which the hunter had used for rattling to attract deer. It's most likely why 61-year-old Briggs had mistaken the father of 3 for one of the animals. In the incident's aftermath, Briggs pled guilty to manslaughter and was sentenced to 3 years in prison, with all but 45 days suspended.
Official They Will Kill You merchandise is now available at theywillkillyou.com. Some of it is to die for.
Number 1. Stanley Whitman. In 2014, the police chief of a small Tennessee town accidentally shot and killed his lifelong friend while the two were out on a hunting trip. The men were hunting wild turkeys at a pasture in Richard City near the Alabama border. At some point during their day out, Chief Virgil McNeese saw movement in one of the bushes. What he didn't know was that his best friend, Stanley Whitman, was stalking the wild birds from that spot. 41-year-old Whitman was shot and sustained critical injuries. He was rushed to a hospital and put on life support. His family ultimately agreed to switch the machines off after they were told he was brain dead. Thanks for watching. Would you rather be hunted by John Rambo or John Wick? Let us know in the comments section below.